Alright, yo guys, what's up? Jack Fury 42 here, and I'm bringing you guys another vlog. The reason I thought I'd do another vlog today is I'm probably going to end up doing a double upload. What happened about yesterday is, apparently,
Okay, so that first clip you just saw, I need to, I need to shave. So allergies kind of kept kicking my ass, throat, all that shit. First clip you saw, that was me when I was still in middle school. I was not in high school yet. I want to say it was 7th grade, end of 7th grade, I think. I don't really remember, but I want to say it was 7th grade. This is a video when I started this channel, I kind of told you guys, I don't know how often I'm going to upload. I'm not looking to go big. I'm just coming on here to yap and kind of talk. And part of the reason I made this channel is I knew inevitably this day would come where I would make this video. And I feel like now is a pretty good time. Tomorrow is my last day of undergrad, which is crazy because it flew by, and it's so unreal to me that I made it through undergrad. I can't believe it's here. I'm going to graduate school too, like all this stuff. It's weird. It's really weird, and there's a lot of emotions, and it was not easy. And this video is kind of like me telling my story a little bit, but I think more than anything, I wanna spread a message to people that are going through anything in life. I want to spread a message that, you're gonna get knocked down. There's gonna be times when you kind of feel like, fuck, this is horrible, nothing's going well, and it's important to keep pushing forward, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I guess in this video, this is, like I said, I ever since I started this channel, I've been like, I'm gonna make this video at some point, and it might be emotional, but it was something that I was like, I want to do this. I want to be a little vulnerable with you guys. This is definitely, like I said, a trigger warning. There's some talk about suicide in this. There's depression. If any of that stuff kind of, gets to you, maybe you shouldn't watch this video. But I also think, in a weird way, like, maybe, I don't want to say maybe you should, because obviously if you want to watch it, you don't want to watch it, is what it is. But I think this is something that just anybody going through a hard time, or in general, I think this is like my story here through undergrad. The biggest thing I've learned, and the connections I made and everything, just kind of reflecting on this, is like what this video is going to be about. So like, yeah, I will say, like, if you're gonna watch one of my videos, I'd say watch this one. Even if it gets 10 views, even if one person watches it and they're like, they get something out of it, that's all that matters. Because honestly, this is like the biggest thing I've taken away from undergrad, and it's crazy that here we are now. And yeah, it's crazy. So let's get into the video. This might be a long one, but let's get into this video. So yeah, growing up, I was always like one of those kids that, like, I don't know how to explain it. Growing up, I had some confidence issues and stuff. I feel like most people do. Like, I played football and baseball. I was pretty good at football. I was okay at baseball, but I kind of talked about that in another video. But we lost a lot, and I think it did something on my confidence. I got so used to losing that when I would win, it didn't feel real. Or I'd always like make up excuses. I'd be like, oh no, it's because of this, or they, it created this thing, and I was always just a very kind of awkward kid. I was a pretty awkward kid. I had friends and stuff, but especially in high school, I really did not like high school. I was a really awkward kid. I had a couple good friends, but I didn't really interact with people. You know, I've always been kind of an anxious kid. You know, I think everybody is to some extent, but it is one of those things where it's like, you know, I was never I didn't like high school. I did not like high school. I had a couple good friends. That's all I needed, but I was not a fan of high school. It was weird. So when I was getting to college, I kind of saw it as like, by the senior year of high school, I kind of had like accepted myself a little more. I wasn't doing things to fit in, you know. I've been watching like anime and stuff before it was cool, and I hate to be one of those guys, but like I watched anime in like middle school, elementary school, high school, before it was like cool, and like if I talked about it, people would like not want to be friends with me. And so I really tried to hold up this image, and sometimes that meant lying to people about stuff I did, like, oh yeah, I did this or this, so people would kind of think I'm cool, or so I could fit in. And I was very, very insecure about myself, I guess, because I felt like I had to fit this certain norm, I guess. However, after COVID, I kind of came into myself, and that sounds fucking weird. I kind of became my true self a little bit, and I started branching out a little bit. I stopped caring what people thought as much. Obviously, I still do care about what people think. Everybody does, you know. Some people just more than others. Some people hide it. But and my goal was going into college. I was gonna interact. I was gonna try to talk with people. And yeah. So over the summer going to college, my anxiety got really bad, and it kind of translated going into college. Freshman year was a very, very, very rough year for me, and I think everybody kind of goes through something freshman year, and some people go through stuff more than others, but for me personally, it was really hard. At the time, I'd been playing Apex Legends, and I was pretty good, and I was a part of the esports team. I actually ran it, and it just fell through completely, and I kind of stopped playing Apex, and I kind of just like, it was weird. I went in, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I went in, and I was like, you know, it's new, you know, I get to meet new people, all that stuff, you know, new opportunities and everything. And then when I kind of got there, I was meeting a lot of people, but I was meeting people, and I was kind of like, I don't really fuck with you. Like, nothing mean, just we don't vibe together. And I had a really hard time making friends freshman year of college, you know, which honestly contributed to my anxiety, because after, you know, everybody kind of had formed their groups after the first month, I had really nothing. And a big part of this was I didn't like going out to the bars, you know, and that was a big thing, because that's how you really meet people. And I was not like big out of the bars, but at this point I didn't really have people to go out of the bar with. So it was one of these things where it kind of, my anxiety was really bad at this point. I just, every single day, it was even getting up and going to class, it was like I'd have to hype myself up. And it was this thing where I would like go to class, and then I'd come back, and like I'd come back and I'd play games and I'd sleep. It really started getting to me. I was also kind of like, I was in a relationship at the time, and it's my ex now, but it was very much like going downhill, I could say. And that was also really not helping, because I felt like that was also really contributing to my anxiety and stuff. And just my self-esteem was kind of low. Like I've never had high self-esteem. Like I said, I've always been kind of a self-conscious kid. I've always kind of had self-esteem issues. But it was pretty bad. I felt like a loser. I didn't have friends. I felt like a fucking loser. That's the only way I can put it, you know? And I kind of was. I feel like I was. I would literally, like I said, go to class, and it'd take everything in my body to go to class. I'd be in class, I'd be so fucking anxious. I like wouldn't pay attention. I wasn't doing very great in my classes, but I was like getting by. I was like, you know, I could have been doing worse, but I was passing and getting by at least. But I was kind of like, I don't know. Now, I did have support, you know, I had family support, but that only goes so far. And like I said, no friends. I felt super isolated. And it was one of those things where I had some contact with like my suite mate, and I would talk, and my roommate was cool. Still with my roommate today, Kellen, shout out if you're watching this. I don't know. But you know, 4 years, it's been awesome. But you know, it was kind of like I didn't want to intrude on their friend groups. And also like whenever I would go out, I was like, my anxiety would be getting to me, and I was like, what if I like have like a freak out outside or something? Like I was really in my head about all that shit. And I just like, I wasn't living. I like definition of going through the motions. I like, it was horrible. I just remember the first time I had a panic attack, I was just in my bed and it just like came on, and I heart attack, and I went in my room and I was like, Alex, my friend, my room, sweet man Alex, sorry for the name drop, but he knows about all this. I was like, just fucking talk to me, dude. I was like, am I having a heart attack? And calmed me down, but I was like so scared. And then I had another one the next day, and it was hard. It was horrible. And I was going home, I remember, and I was in the car, and I was so anxious 24/7. Something I really don't wish on anybody. Like, I'm serious. The level of anxiety and stuff, and it kind of, at this point, because this was in October, and when I got back from our like little fall break thing, it just kind of turned into a depression. I didn't really like, I was playing games, but I wasn't like, I wasn't really into it that much. I wasn't hanging out with anybody. Maybe occasionally if my suite was doing something, I do something, but I was like I said, same routine. And it started to turn into a depression where I started questioning like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I here? My grades were like okay, but I tried to make some connections in class, but it just would never stick. Or I couldn't really find my group, and I was just kind of like, am I ever gonna find my group? And I remember talking to my parents about it and stuff, and they're just like, yeah, I'll just give it time. And you know, I was like, I guess. And I remember at this point, yeah, it was bad. Everything was bad about it. The school I have here, they have like a freshman program, and I had a couple friends in that I would kind of resonate with, people that I was cool with, but it still was like, my anxiety really got in the way of me like forming actual connections with people. And I'd usually like, now I'm really like, yes, I'll do this, like let's do this. I'm really breaking out of my comfort zone the last couple of years. But freshman year me, I was like, my anxiety kind of controlled me. I was like, fuck, like, damn. And basically like, it turned into a depression, and and this is where I'm kind of like, trigger warning, I guess. It got to the point where I was pretty suicidal. I didn't see much of a reason in me living. I really like, and it's this is like really hard for me to say. Like, I really didn't see a reason for me to live. I just was like, I'm gonna drop out of college, and then I'm gonna just work at McDonald's or something, and then all my friends are gonna be, at this point I don't have any friends. I have a couple of hometown friends that I don't really talk to anymore, because I've let this get in the way of relationships and stuff. And I was just like, I was like, I'm just gonna, like, what's the point? I mean, I had a very loving family, and that's part of the reason I kept going. I think, because I was like, I just have, you know, like, no, at the time I was like, I don't really have friends, and I was like, what is the point of doing this? Maybe I should have chosen a little more private spot. I thought it was pretty private though. So it got to the point around, I'd say this is around December, so getting ready to end my first semester, and I was like, I was just going through the motions. At this point I started skipping some classes, not too much. I was still going, but it was very much like, what's the point of doing all this? Like, you know, what, like, why am I here? You know, I was just, it turned into some pretty bad suicidal thoughts, and it was always worse at night when I was getting ready to go to sleep. Shit was very intrusive, all that stuff. Along with this, I still had this anxiety and this feelings in my chest, and the breathing, the shallow breathing. It's just horrible. You couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep, and it was, you know, I was low key like, you know, maybe I should just, I don't know. You know, I don't even like to say it. So I'm not even gonna say it. But, you know, you can put two and two together. But it was not. It was without a doubt, that first semester in general was without a doubt the darkest moment in my life. Like, no question about it. I had family support still, which I was grateful for. Sorry, allergies. Which I was grateful for, but I felt so isolated on campus, and I felt like I just was incapable of finding friends, and I thought nobody liked me. That's another, I was really big on, like, I thought people just didn't like me for no reason. I thought people hated me just because, for no reason. And maybe that stems from a little bit of high school, because I felt like in high school I was always like, nobody ever came up to my face and like bullied me, but I always kind of knew people were like talking behind my back and everything. So I think that just kind of transferred over. Like I said, I've always had big self-esteem issues, and I've gotten better at it, but this was like contributing to that. So it was kind of this perfect storm of all this shit. But I think really is a family support that kind of kept me going through this, especially like my father was like really big at the time for helping with this. And that was my first semester. It was fucking terrible. But you know, this is where things start to kind of turn around, I guess, a little bit. So so that was kind of that. So here, I guess, segue into the next part. So at this point, like, I was still really big into games. It was kind of the only thing that I like really enjoyed doing at the time. But I wasn't like passionate about anything. Like, I was like, even like Apex, I played a lot. I wasn't like passionate about it. You know, it was always like, I'd play for a bit and then things would just fall through and I'd move on to the next game. You know, it was never a passion. It was just something I would do in my free time, kind of like to do. But then I started playing Salt Voltex, which, if you know me, you know how much I love this shit, and I still play it and everything. And I've had people ask me, why this game? Why do you play this game? Like, what about it? What about it? And I think it's a mixture of, one, I just love playing the game. I love improving. I love the community. I met so many cool people through it. It's awesome. But also, like, this shit low-key, and this is where I'm like, I don't think people will never fully understand why I take it so seriously, but I think this might give a little bit of an insight, is like, this game probably like saved me from fucking killing myself, which is crazy, but it gave me like a drive and a purpose and like a passion to get better and a reason to keep going to, like, so let me explain this. So I actually I found out about Voltex through a player who I won't mention because of allegations they have, but they were playing a song and it was it looked really cool, and they looked really cool, and I was like, wow, this is cool. But I looked it up and I saw it was arcade only, and it was Japan, so I was like, I guess I can't do this. But then I saw that there was a computer version and you could get a controller. So I got the controller and I kind of played it for a little bit and I kind of dropped it. But over break, I ended up I was like, fuck it, let me pick it back up. And I took it to school with me and I started playing. And it was fun and I enjoyed it and it was cool. But I don't think it really took off until I was watching the professional league. You know, they have the B-Money Pro League. And one of the teams is round 1. And I was thinking to myself, there's a round 1 in the mall like 15 minutes from where I go to school. I wonder if they would have this game. And I remember I'll never forget this day. At this point, January went by and still anxiety, you know, still having some depressive thoughts. New classes were starting. I was starting to get a little more involved with my Sweet Mates group, but still not too much. I was really letting my anxiety like keep me from doing a lot of shit. But what ended up happening was I went to the mall for my birthday dinner. It was February 4th, one night for my birthday. And we stopped in the round 1 and they had it. And it was like a level of euphoria I was just like, I can come up here like whenever. Like it's 15 minutes away. I could take the bus or I could Uber or something. I was like, this is awesome. And basically, like, it gave me this drive to stay in school, because I was like, now it was like, if I drop out, I lose access to this and the community. And then I got involved in the community. I got invited to Discord server and I started to meet people and it was super cool. There's some other people that played, and it was awesome. It was super cool. And it was awesome. I had so much fucking fun. I was improving a lot. I was getting better. It was fun. It still is fun, but you know, it gets slower the higher you get up. But I was having a fucking blast. It saved me. I was still dealing with a lot of anxiety, but the depressive thoughts at this point too, I should also admit, I started going to therapy, which also really helped, just being able to talk to somebody about the shit with. But you know, shit started to pick up. I started to interact with people more. I remember my second time actually going to the arcade was with my sweet mate and his friend group to go bowling, and then I fucked off and played Voltex. But I was starting to get a little more involved, but my anxiety was still really bad. And yeah. And then I'll just kind of fast forward, because this was a big thing. I was doing this every other day, basically. I go up and I play. And then the summer, same thing. And I met one of my best friends through it. And her and I are still friends to this day through a lot of shit. But basically, I started interacting with people. And also this was huge because I was getting out of my dorm. I was going to the mall. I was going 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away to the mall. I was getting out. Like, it would now be, I come back from work or from school, or I do work or whatever, and then I'd go to the mall. And I wasn't just sitting or sleeping. I was getting more active, and I'd see people up there and be like, hey, what's up? And it was awesome. I mean, you know, I started really breaking out a little bit. And then summer came along, and I told myself my anxiety was starting to get better. It was not perfect, but it was starting to definitely get better. And I told myself, I'm really just going to try to take some fucking chances next sophomore year. And what ended up happening was, at this point, I kind of would hang out with my sweet mate, Alex, his group, a little bit. And I'll never forget, this is what set everything in motion, you know? One day, I was talking to my friend, one of my best friends, Andres, and sophomore year, beginning of sophomore year, basically, and he told me he's having this little party thing tonight. And, you know, freshman year me would have been like, fuck no, like, what if my anxiety gets bad, all this shit. But I was like, fuck it, I'll go. And I was nervous, but I was like, fuck it, I'll go. And I went, and I ended up meeting a group, and Andres and I were with this group for a while, and it was awesome. I finally kind of had an established friend group, and I'd hang out with them every day. And when I was starting to get involved and more active and stuff, my anxiety really started to get better. Now, granted, that group didn't really work out, But I told Andres, it's all right, because this is now like second semester, sophomore year. I told him, like, let's just keep hanging out with like our other friends, and you know, we'll have a good time. And then I met Tony for my birthday. I met Tony. Andres introduced me to him, and this is what really kind of started. Like I said, I think realistically the most fun I had with college was second semester, sophomore year. I was starting to meet people and get involved and everything, and it was awesome. And yeah, like, it was sick. And we ended up founding the original Goon Squad. That was our group name for a bit. And it was me, Tony, my friend Josh, Andres, my friend Ben, who doesn't go to Loyola, a couple other people. And we would just kick it, and we'd hang out, and we'd do all this fun shit, and it was awesome. And then that summer was like the best summer of my life. I met some people. We had a great time. I was hanging out with them because we are in the area, and just a best summer of my fucking life. We did so much, and I was really in a great state. And then junior year, like, once again, building off the momentum, just getting involved. I got an internship. Had a solidified friend group at this point. We were kicking it so much. We were doing so much fun things. It was awesome. I felt like I was like expanding so much. And then, basically, like, it was awesome. Junior year was really good. And then, here we are senior year, and same thing. I was just making the most, solidifying relationships with people. And then, final semester, I, met this really, really amazing girl, and, we just started dating and stuff, and we've been hanging out and shit. And, it's been awesome, and it's introduced me to so many other friends, and it's just like, yeah, like, I just, like, looking back, and like, we had our end of the year function the other day, and I just look at shit like that, and I'm looking back on stuff, and I'm really like, damn, I've like come so far since freshman year, 4 years, and like, I still play Voltex, and it's like still one of my biggest passions, and I have a lot of friends now, and I have, like, I like to say, a pretty bright future. I got into grad school, just all this shit that I like really never could have even fathomed happening. And this all goes back to my point is, I think the biggest thing I've learned from college out of these 4 years, outside of the books, outside of anything, I learned that sometimes you really gotta fucking struggle, but there's always something at the end of the tunnel, and you gotta just keep working on yourself. And working on yourself is so important, and just reaching out whenever you can. Even if you feel like you don't have support, there's always somebody there for you. And just really trying to push yourself is so important. And like, I don't like to glaze myself, but I'm so fucking proud of myself. I went from freshman year thinking I was gonna fucking not even be here right now, and to now be supported by all of these really amazing people. And sorry, it's a little emotional, dude, but yeah, I mean, it's really cool to be supported by so many friends, and my family, brother, girlfriend, all these different people in my life throughout the past 4 years. And I think that's just the biggest lesson I've learned is sometimes you're just going to go through some shit, but reaching out, staying involved, you're going to go through rough patches, but there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And I've matured so much over 4 years. I was talking to one of my friends about it an hour ago. I was like, I feel like I'm a completely different person from where I was. And I feel like that's because of what I had to go through. I feel like I wouldn't change anything. That freshman year in general was horrible. First semester in specific was really bad, but I wouldn't change anything because those experiences and everything made me who I am today. And I am just so grateful for everybody who's been along with me through this journey, and all my friends. We all have bright futures. everybody's gonna do great, and I'm just so grateful to even have this opportunity. And I'm so grateful for the people I met, and I'm so grateful I stuck it out and kept going. And yeah, so I guess the main point of this video is kind of sharing my story a little bit with college ending, which I can't believe, but also you're not alone. There's always support, even if you feel like you don't have it, and there's always a reason to keep going, because there's always going to be better days. You know, it just might not always be that way, but there's always going to be better days. And just thank you guys. I seriously, this is, I really only post this on like my close friends' Instagram, so I don't know if people see this, but if you are going to watch a video of mine, I really think you should watch this one, because I think it, even going into the future, you know, there's going to be times where we're all dealing with shit, but I think taking what I've learned from undergrad and just sticking it out through the tough times and trying to find the light in any little bad situation is really, really necessary for the future and struggles. And I hope that's something that people take with us. And this is the reason I'm making this video, is because I want people to take this with us. I want people to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not always going to be pretty, but getting through it, you know, if I would have never met some of my best friends. I can say that. I would have never met my best friends, you know, if it weren't for me sticking through it and reaching out when I needed to and stuff. So, you know, I love you guys. Seriously, everybody that's watching this video, I love you guys. Like, I mean it. I'm so excited for the future, but just know, like, never give up. And there's always somebody there to talk to you. And if not, I'm here to talk to you. So just, yeah, that's my story. And I can't believe I'm already about to graduate. So yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, so just like I said, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. It sounds corny, but it's really true. And yeah, just check up on people, you know, really check up on people. Even if they look like they're doing fine, it's always good to just have a check-in, seriously. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this. All right, see ya, I guess.